Hey y'all, I'm Dr. Lucretia Cook, but you can call me Dr. Lala. Welcome back to another episode of the Revolve Podcast, where grief and loss are a journey, not a final destination. So I hope you guys have had an amazing week. And so today I would like to talk about our young folks. I know, right? Because so often when we start talking about grieving, we don't necessarily have conversations that involve the kids and how they're feeling, right? Especially during the holiday season. Because here's the thing, grief doesn't skip them, it just hides in different places. Sometimes it might look like they're withdrawn or they're angry, sometimes even laughter. And while it looks different, children and teens, they feel deeply too, right? But a lot of times they just don't have the language to be able to express it and to give it a name. So today I would like to talk about how grief shows up in our young folks and how we can companion them with compassion, and how our faith helps to create safe spaces for them to be able to heal in as well. Because again, their grief matters too. And it's important that we give them the grace and the space to feel how they feel. Because here's the thing, kids grieve differently than adults do, right? A lot of times their grief may come and go. It comes in between, like playtime and sleep, and or even asking a million and one questions. Sometimes they might not cry, but they might start acting out in school, right? They might not act out in school, but they've started to withdraw, right? Or they're not withdrawn, but they are asking the same question over and over and over again. I know, right? And so we have to give them an opportunity to express their grief too, and to show them how their relationship with the Father can help them on their grief journey. Because Jesus says, let the children come to me, right? And so this wasn't just about their innocence, but giving them access to the Father, helping them cultivate a relationship with the Father and giving them access to Him as well, right? So let's talk about what some common grief signs, or what some grief signs that are common in children might look like, and how we can respond to that with presence and not pressure. I know. So let's just sit with that for just a second. We want to show up with them with presence and not pressure. We don't want them to feel like they need to just get over it. You know? Because children hurt too. And a lot of times they might not have the language for it. Right? And it shows up differently. I know for my daughter, it showed up differently for her, and she didn't want to show me when she was sad, oftentimes because she knew I was sad. And these are conversations we've had throughout the years at this point. But when my mom passed away, she hardly ever let me see her cry. And she told me it was because she already knew I was sad. So she didn't want me to be sad for myself and be sad for her too. Right? And then she had never really seen me cry before. So she didn't really know how to manage that emotion of seeing mommy as a mess, because my mom had passed away, right? And so she was grieving, and she didn't really have the language for it. And again, these are things that we've discussed as the years have progressed. But again, grief shows up differently for kids, right? For some, it may show up as a regression, whereas they used to be potty trained, but now they're wetting the bed again. It might look like that they were really independent and would like to wander off and explore, but now they're clingy. right? It might be where they have these random outbursts of anger or be irritable, whereas normally they're happy and jolly and running around laughing and playing, right? They might even withdraw and want to be off to themselves and not really engage with their friends or their cousins and family members, right? Sometimes it looks like asking the same question over and over and over again. And that's not because they forgot, but because they're trying to understand. Like, why isn't Granny coming back? Why isn't Pop Pop coming back? You know? And on the other hand, with teenagers, a lot of times they grieve in private, right? And so griefs for adolescents might look a little bit different because they're trying to navigate their identity, their autonomy, and then all of these huge feelings, the emotional intensity that comes with being a hormonal teenager, all while grieving. That's a lot, right? Because life as a teenager is interesting as it is. Never mind adding grief to the equation, right? And so they may get to the place where they resist the holiday traditions that you might have. They might not want to help put up the tree. They might not have any interest in setting up the train track, right? They might isolate themselves and spend more time in their bedroom. They may even seem indifferent. It may even come across as though they don't care. But underneath all of that, they're probably overwhelmed, right? And it's not uncommon for these things to happen, for them to respond this way, to want to spend time by themselves and actually think it through, right? And just because they're seeking time for themselves doesn't mean that they're attempting to be rebellious or that they don't care. It might just be that they're just trying to find a safe space to feel how they're feeling and to process through it. Because again, we have regular, normal teenage hormones and feelings, which are already huge, right? These feelings are really big already. And so if they're grieving, big feelings are now extra large feelings. And so it could just be that they're looking for a space to be able to navigate it and to actually figure out how they're feeling, why they're feeling, right? And so what can we do to support them on their grief journey so that we're not forcing them to be cheerful or to perform, right? Because we don't want them to feel like they have to be happy. They have to pretend that everything is okay, right? We don't want them to be in the position where they are essentially forced into pretending, into performing, putting on a show for the holidays so that everybody else can be more comfortable. Yeah, we don't want our children to have to do that, right? So we want to offer our presence and not pressure. Sometimes they just need somebody to sit there too and not necessarily talk. They might not want to talk about it, but they might just want to sit with you. And they play a game while you read your book. They just might want to be in your presence, right? And we want to validate their emotions, how they feel, It's valid. The feelings that they have, they're real. And it's not our job to try to fix it. I know. And as parents, that is hard. It's hard not to try to fix it when our babies are hurting. It's hard. But the reality is they have to learn how to process for themselves. And our job is to be there with them and to hold their hands through the process. Give them the tools and the skills that they need to be able to process their emotions for themselves, right? Be able to hold their hand while they do that. And we want to invite them into the rituals that we have. And by rituals, I'm talking about these special family things that we do during the holidays. Like for us, we love putting up the tree. It's like a whole thing, right? Some people may take time and spend the day baking desserts. Some people enjoy taking the day and wrapping all the presents and making a whole day of it, right? And so inviting them into those rituals. And also respecting their need for space if they need it. And that can be hard too. Because we want to spend that time with them, but it may be just be that they need some time in their room by themselves. That the hustle and bustle and the noise and all of the things that come with family gatherings might be too much. And as much as we may want them to participate and to be involved, we need to be okay with them saying, Mom, I don't want to go this year. Or Mom, I don't want to come out of my room. I'd rather stay in my room and watch a Christmas movie or, play Roblox or whatever it is that they're into, read a book. Sometimes that needs to be okay. And most importantly, model emotional honesty for them. Yeah. One of the biggest gifts we can give our children is emotional honesty. Because I'll be honest with you, it's rough when you tend to suppress your own emotions, right? Because our babies learn from us. We're their first teacher with how to navigate these rough seasons in life. I know for myself, one of the things that was interesting is when my daughter and I, throughout the years, we've talked about these things. And when she told me I was always strong, she had never seen me cry for real. And so when my mom passed away, she didn't know what to do because she had never seen me in a position where I was basically incapacitated. Like she thought nothing bothered me. That's literally what she thought. But it was because I was really good with compartmentalizing. I would put my feelings in a box and I would put them on the shelf. And that's just how I navigated life for a really long time. And I don't do that anymore. And it actually stopped after my mom passed away. After Karis and I had this conversation, and she told me that she didn't know that I was capable of getting angry. I know. But she didn't know that I was capable of getting angry because she had never seen it. And when my dad passed away, she had just turned 4, so she was still relatively little. And so she remembered me crying sometimes, but she didn't remember me in the way that she remembers what happened when my mom passed away. Right? So up until mommy passed away, she had never really seen me sad. She had never really seen me angry. She hadn't seen any of that. So she literally didn't know I was capable of it. And Honestly, the day she told me that, it tickled me to death. On the one hand, I was tickled, but on the other hand, I was like, no, ma'am. Mommy has all of the emotions. I'm just really good at hiding them, or I was. But because of the conversation I had with her, I started being really intentional about sharing with her whatever emotion I was having. When she would ask me, or if there was something going on, and I would tell her, mommy's really frustrated right now. Or if I was angry, I'll say, I'm angry right now. If I'm sad right now. And so this is something that's progressed over the last 5 or 6 years. But I did her a disservice because she didn't know how to manage her emotions because she had never seen me do it. Because I would compartmentalize. So when she did finally see me falling apart at the seams, she had no clue what to do. She didn't know what to do with my emotions, and she certainly didn't know what to do with hers. Right? So I'm saying that all to say emotional honesty is crucial with our children and being truthful with where we are so that they can see what it looks like to navigate grief and loss, right? So they can see what it looks like to hold love and sorrow at the same time. And we can do things like honoring our loved ones. And we can teach them how they can do the same thing. Because both of those things can certainly be true. It's possible to hold sorrow and love in the same container. Many of us do it every day. And so, you can teach them what it means to honor their grandmother, their grandfather, their siblings, even friends, right? We can do things with them like lighting a candle, creating a photo collage of their favorite memories with their loved ones, so that they don't forget. One of the things I love to do for Karis is send her pictures of her with my mom and dad. Because she was really young when my dad passed away, right? So every chance I get when I come across photos in my memories, I send them to her. Same thing with pictures with my mom. I send them to her. When I have memories, I had a memory come up on Facebook just last week, and it was a video of the kids with my mom and dad, the last trip they took with them. And to be able to send it to her and see her facial expression when she heard mommy and daddy's voice. Those types of things matter. Being able to share a favorite meal with her. Like my mom loved smoked cabbage and with smoked sausage and cabbage. Karis loves it. And so these are just little things that keep us connected, that keep us from forgetting, right? And then also, again, we can let them have a quiet corner when they're feeling overwhelmed, and then not be offended when they do, right? And they need to be able to do these things without pressure, because when they're ready, they'll come to you. If you've created a safe space for them to be able to come to you and share their emotions, share their thoughts, share their feelings, when they're ready to talk, they will. And sometimes that might not be on our timeline. And that's going to have to be okay, right? Because again, young people grieve too. And it's our job to make space for it. Not to rush it, not to put it on our timeline, but to allow them to have theirs, right? And as always, I want to encourage you, if you haven't already gotten them in therapy. Therapy is a great place for young people too, right? There's no such thing as too young, because in therapy, it gives them a safe space too, and gives them an opportunity to learn the language for their emotions. It might be able to help them process their anger, silence, or withdrawal, right? It gives them tools to be able to cope with the triggers that they may experience during the holiday season, right? And as parents, it might support us in being able to guide them through their grief journey. Yeah, because having them in therapy doesn't take away our responsibilities and obligations as parents. It's our job to learn as much as we can so that we can help them navigate, right? And then it complements prayer and scripture and these rituals that we have as a family, right? It does all of those things from them. And just like with adults, therapy isn't a replacement for their faith. It's not a replacement for prayer and scripture. It's a complement. And just like like our kids lean on us, we might lean on our pastors and our communities for support. Therapists can help carry the emotional weight, right? So having our children in therapy is for the kids and it's for us, because they help us to carry the weight. They teach us how to help our littles navigate it, because we want to give them the same rhythms. And honestly, the earlier we're able to teach them how faith and therapy can work together, the better, right? So we can teach them how to honor their faith, how to honor their soul, and how to honor their mind and body, because all of those things work together. And it's no such thing as being too young. Therapy can be a thing that helps them to learn how to grieve well. Because again, grief in children is not a problem for us to fix, right? It's important that we let them feel, let them rest when they need to, and to hold them when it's necessary, right? Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. They're allowed to ask the hard questions without shame. They are allowed to have space without feeling rushed through the process. It's important that we show them that God is close to the brokenhearted, and to remind them that love doesn't die just because our loved one does. Even though our loved ones are gone, love transcends time and space. It didn't leave, right? So we want to encourage them. So we want to remind them that God loves them and that He cares, right? And that He has not forgotten that their grief matters. And as parents, I want to encourage you to hold space for how your children and your teenagers are feeling, right? And to hold them, love them long and hard for as long as they need it, right? And so until next time, keep choosing healing, keep choosing joy. I love y'all. Bye.